Hi, I'm Harry,
And I'm Ralph.
and today we're going to talk about the sixth film of the Harry Potter franchise, The Half-Blood Prince.
This might be the darkest film in the whole franchise. Either this one or the next one. It is definitely PG-13, unlike the very first films in the series.
Speaking of it being darker, what I did notice about this one is this is the first movie of the Harry Potter franchise where the entire film from the start to the end was not in full color. It wasn't black and white, but it was very discolored.
And it's very dark. Lots of the shots in this movie are very shadowy and creepy. That's been starting, I think, ever since the second film, but it's just been building more and more to where the color scheme is becoming grayer and darker, and everything's becoming more serious as the stakes get higher.
Oh yeah. We also see that Harry Potter is taking care of himself like an adult. It's like in this movie, I'm convinced that he needs no guardian.
Yeah, well, and at the end of the film, spoilers, they kinda agree to forgo Hogwarts altogether. So they're basically dropping out of school now because they have a more important issue. And I think that really kind of brings the stakes home, that they can't just go to Hogwarts next year because, you know, they have really a very important mission to get done.
Oh, for sure. We watch this film, we don't see the Dursleys again, which may be a relief to some of you guys. We do see a lot more romantic themes, like Ginny's with Dean Thomas. Ron has a short-term romance with some girl Lavender Brown.
Ron also gets love potioned in this film, which is pretty funny for the scenes that it lasts.
Oh yeah. And what also happens with Ron Weasley is I did feel that Ron Weasley was still immature compared to Harry Potter in this film, as Harry Potter is kind of taking the lead and being mature, whereas Ron Weasley is being more like a goofball.
Yeah, but I didn't feel like he was unlikable in this film like he has been in some of the earlier films. Sometimes when they're trying to create conflict with the characters, they just kind of have Ron act like a jerk. That happened before, and it's probably going to happen some more later in the series, but I didn't feel like it happened that much in this film. You know, there were some comedic scenes with Ron, like with the love potion, that broke up some of the darker elements, but I was glad that they didn't have personal fighting between the three of them. I get pretty sick of that.
Oh yeah, and another big thing we see, I'll get in touch with Draco Malfoy. Draco is definitely more mature in this film, so he's let go of some of his childish, infantile, playground bullying-like ways.
Well, his dad gets arrested as a Death Eater, so he kinda has to.
Although Draco's matured, he's really much more dangerous in this film as he's learned powerful spells. And it's like, before that, like any fight with Harry and Draco would just be like a childish situation on a playground. But in this movie, they're casting deadly spells to one another that could potentially lead to death. And Harry does severely wound Draco in this film because he loses control of himself. Snape ends up coming to the rescue for Draco.
Well, I thought Snape was pretty interesting in this film, too, because before, he seemed like he's kind of a bad, mean teacher, but he's not really a villain. You know, we never really thought that he might be in league with Voldemort before, but this is the film where they kind of amp it up to the next level, where you begin to wonder, wait, is Snape really a Death Eater? And at the end, maybe we shouldn't spoil it, or maybe we will, but it gets very dark, especially regarding Snape. And I think this is one of the best character films for him.
Oh yeah, they definitely took Snape to a new level. As spoilers, we get to see the end of Dumbledore, and it starts out with Draco trying to prove himself by showing that he's got what it takes to kill.
But he doesn't.
But sure enough, Snape stops Draco.
Well, Draco can't bring himself to do it. He wants to, but Draco can't bring himself to kill, and in the end, Snape ends up doing it for him, as he had promised.
And pretty much immediately after that, Harry Potter is filled with rage and is casting deadly spells at Snape, demanding that he fight back. But what Snape ends up doing is casting a spell that doesn't really injure Harry but disarms him, and he announces that he is the Half-Blood Prince.
Yeah, Snape doesn't want to hurt Harry and stops Bellatrix from doing so because he says that Harry belongs to the Dark Lord. It's like they could kill him now, but they're saving him for Voldemort. So, almost ominous and very frustrating for Harry when he's screaming, "Fight me! Fight me!" And they're just kind of ignoring him.
Oh, yeah. And at the same time, apart from the dark themes like with Snape and Voldemort, we see burgeoning romance, like Harry has a crush on Ginny, Ron's got a big crush on Lavender Brown. We even see Harry looking at some other girls that we don't even know in sort of a romantic way, so we can definitely see signs of late puberty in this film.
I thought this film had one of the creepiest scenes in the entire franchise. When the zombies are rushing at them from inside the lake, I thought that looked really, really creepy. That might be the scariest scene in the whole series. That is definitely a PG-13 scene. You wouldn't want to show that to, a kid who really just loves the first film.
Well, I don't think the zombies were as scary. Eredgog apparently died in this film, and we see this giant spider crunched up and dead, but he's still like the size of a car, and I just think it's scary to see this giant spider, even if it's dead and can't hurt you.
Yeah, I don't know. The spiders aren't that bad. I'd rather be with the spiders than the cave zombies. But, this is kind of a film that defines the next two, because it's the film where we learn about the Horcruxes, how Voldemort has split himself up into several different objects, and they have to find each of these objects and destroy them before they can even really begin to kill Voldemort. They realize just how hard of a task this is going to be. And I think that's a good moment at the end when they're all kind of together and they swear to set aside Hogwarts and go together to hunt down these Horcruxes. It really feels like they've grown up, and it's not just school that matters anymore. Now it's really their lives. And it just feels like the stakes have become very, very high. And I think it's good that the series, it just seems to get better and ends on a high note. Most series, by the time they get to the 6th or 7th film in the series, it's just tiresome. But I think this really helps keep it fresh, even 6 films in.
Another thing, when it comes to the cinematography, the special effects, I thought they were good in this film. I didn't really think they were beautiful like they were back in Azkaban.
This film is a lot darker than Prisoner of Azkaban, and I felt like it might have been prettier if we had more color and if we could see better. Because in the other films, there's some gorgeous flying shots with tons of color and light and detail, and there are still some gorgeous shots in this movie, but everything's so dark and dimly lit and close up to the characters. It makes it feel scarier, but I think this might be one of the least pretty films of the series, just how dark and gloomy the whole thing is.
This movie definitely has, with its discoloration, a sort of gloom and doom feel to it. And when you watch the movie with the discoloration, it almost makes you think that it's a dream sequence, even when it isn't. And sometimes when they show a discoloration like in this film, it implies that it's taking place in a different time, like in the past or the future. But in this film, it's taking place right there, right then.
Yeah, and it was pretty clear when they did that in Order of the Phoenix, because that's a colorful movie. And then when it goes to black and white, you can tell. But in this film, it's so gloomy that when they do go to black and white, it's almost not much of a difference.
Oh, in this film, they also meet a new teacher, Horace Slughorn.
Yeah, a little bit cowardly. They find him hiding inside of a chair.
Yeah, but I really liked Horace Slughorn. I mean, he was a good guy. He was funny. He seemed like he was a nice, friendly teacher, I thought.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that he definitely helped make the movie a little bit more enjoyable.
So, what do you think you'd give this film out of 10?
You know, this one really wasn't my favorite. I guess maybe I wasn't as big of a fan of the whole discolored sort of gloom and doom dream sequence-like vibe. I guess I'm gonna give this movie like a 7.5, or actually no. I'll go ahead and give this movie an 8 because I do think it contains some good elements to it.
I'm glad you gave it an 8 because I am going to give this film a 7.5. I prefer this to some of the earliest films in the series just because I feel like the stakes are a little bit higher, more grittiness to it, which I kind of like, but I do feel like it's not quite as interesting. It's kind of a middle chapter, and it's very gloomy. So, not as much fun as Prisoner of Azkaban, Order of the Phoenix, Goblet of Fire. Not quite as much fun as the next two movies, so I think this might be one of the worst films in the franchise. I would personally say that either this film, or maybe even Chamber of Secrets, is the worst of the series. But I'm gonna give this a 7.5. Not as good as the others, but still pretty good, and if you're watching them all, you have to see it. So, not unpleasant at all, just not the best of the series.
Alright. Well, anyhow, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and leave a comment below. Thank you guys. Stay tuned till next time. Stay awesome.
See ya.